At 6:30 in the morning, neighbours heard a woman's desperate screams pierce the silence, followed by an explosion that would change 3 children's lives forever. Kelly Wilkinson had always believed in love. When she met Brian Earl Johnston, a US Marine, in 2011, she thought she'd found her forever. Kelly, then in her early 20s, was drawn to Brian's military background and what seemed like stability. She made the huge decision to leave Australia behind and move to Ohio to be with him, building what she hoped would be a beautiful life together. Their marriage in 2012 appeared picture perfect from the outside. Brian had served 2 tours in Iraq with the Marine Corps Aviation Division, and Kelly admired his dedication and service. They welcomed 3 children together, and for a time, everything seemed to be falling into place. But beneath the surface, cracks were already forming. By 2017, those cracks had become irreparable fractures. Kelly made the difficult decision to return to Australia with their children, leaving Brian behind. She told him clearly not to follow her. For Kelly, this wasn't just a separation, it was an escape. She was seeking a fresh start, far from whatever had gone wrong in their marriage. But love, or what Brian believed was love, wouldn't let her go so easily. Within months, Brian had followed Kelly to Australia's Gold Coast, and against what many would later see as her better judgment, Kelly agreed to reconcile. They settled into a home in Arundel, and their family welcomed a 3rd child. For a brief moment, it seemed like Kelly's faith in their relationship might be rewarded. The reunion, however, was short-lived. The same issues that had driven Kelly away the first time resurfaced with a vengeance. This time, though, she wouldn't just be dealing with a difficult marriage. She would be facing something much darker and more dangerous. Looking back, the warning signs had been there all along. By February 2021, Kelly's worst fears about her marriage were becoming reality. The woman who had once crossed an ocean for love was now telling her family and friends that she was terrified of the man she had married. Brian had become controlling and abusive, transforming from the military man she'd fallen for into someone she barely recognized. Kelly's sister Danielle later revealed that Kelly had described Brian as abusive and controlling to her family. The fear in Kelly's voice was so palpable that she had even established a secret code phrase with her family, "I'm considering moving back to Ohio," that would alert them if she was in immediate danger. The situation escalated rapidly in March 2021, when Brian was charged with sexually assaulting Kelly, charges he would later deny. Despite the serious nature of these allegations, Brian was released on bail with one condition: he could only contact Kelly regarding matters concerning their 3 children. For Kelly, this should have provided some measure of protection. She had a domestic violence order in place against Brian, and he was legally forbidden from approaching her except about their kids. But restraining orders are just pieces of paper, and Brian had no intention of staying away. By early April, Brian's behaviour had become even more erratic and threatening. Police charged him with 4 serious domestic violence offences against Kelly. Once again, he was given what's called watch house bail, essentially released from custody while awaiting trial. Kelly was now living in a nightmare where the system that was supposed to protect her kept setting her abuser free. What happened next would expose one of the most devastating failures in Australia's approach to domestic violence protection. In the weeks following Brian's release, Kelly began visiting police stations across the Gold Coast almost daily. She wasn't shopping for the best coffee or looking for directions. She was desperately trying to save her own life and the lives of her 3 children. Kelly told police repeatedly, according to her sister Danielle, "I am scared for my life. I am scared for my children's life. We are not safe." She reported that Brian was breaching the conditions of his domestic violence order, ignoring the legal requirements to stay away from her. But instead of seeing a terrified mother seeking protection, police officers recorded something entirely different in their case notes. They labelled Kelly's desperate pleas as cop shopping, a dismissive term suggesting she was simply trying different police stations to get the outcome she wanted, rather than recognising that she was a woman in mortal danger seeking help from anyone who would listen. The police notes, later uncovered by Guardian Australia, revealed one officer's particularly damning assessment. It appears she is cop shopping to get the outcome she wants. She didn't know it yet, but she had just signed her death sentence. April 20th, 2021 started like any other day in the Arundel neighbourhood where Kelly lived with her 3 children. The Gold Coast morning was quiet, the kind of peaceful start to the day that makes you believe the world is fundamentally good. Kelly had been cycling with her sister Danielle just days before, trying to find moments of lightness after the recent death of their mother from a brain aneurysm. Even while dealing with her own fear and Brian's escalating threats, Kelly was grieving and trying to support her family through their loss. But at 4 a.m. that morning, while Kelly and her children slept peacefully, a figure dressed entirely in black approached the family home. Brian Earl Johnston had come prepared for what he was about to do. He wore a black mask to conceal his identity and carried a backpack filled with tools of terror: duct tape, zip ties, a pry bar, a tomahawk axe, a bag of white powder later identified as a sedative, rope, and most ominously, a 20-litre can of petrol. This wasn't a crime of passion or a moment of lost control. This was premeditated murder, planned and executed with military precision. Brian entered the home where his children were sleeping, where the woman he claimed to love was resting, believing she was safe in her own space. Kelly had no idea that all her warnings to police, all her desperate attempts to get protection, had fallen on deaf ears. She couldn't have known that the system designed to protect her had instead dismissed her as a nuisance. What happened next was captured in the forensic evidence that would later be presented in court. Brian stabbed Kelly 8 times, 3 times in the neck and multiple times in the chest. The wounds were deep and vicious, inflicted while Kelly was likely still in her bed, perhaps waking to the horror of what was happening to her. But the stabbing wasn't enough for Brian. After seriously wounding Kelly, he dragged her outside to the backyard. There, in a final act of cruelty that defies comprehension, he tied Kelly to the family clothesline, doused her body with petrol, and set her on fire. At approximately 6:30 a.m., neighbours were awakened by sounds that would haunt them forever. A woman's desperate screams for help, followed by an explosion. Those who looked outside witnessed a scene from their worst nightmares. Kelly Wilkinson engulfed in flames, fighting for her life as neighbours desperately tried to save her with garden hoses. 2 of Kelly's children, ages 6 and 8, witnessed their mother being murdered. The oldest child, showing remarkable presence of mind in an impossible situation, managed to take himself and his younger sister to neighbours for help. The youngest child, just 2 years old, was also in the house during the attack. The children found safety, but for Kelly, help came too late. Despite neighbours' heroic efforts to extinguish the flames, Kelly succumbed to her injuries. The 27-year-old mother of 3, who had begged police for protection just days earlier, was dead. Brian was found several blocks away in a semi-conscious state with severe burn injuries. In his attempt to kill Kelly, he had also injured himself, possibly jumping into a nearby pool to extinguish flames that had caught his own clothing. A trail of blood led police to him, and he was immediately taken into custody and rushed to the hospital. That phone call would be the last anyone heard from her. For nearly 3 years, Kelly's family waited for justice. Just weeks before his scheduled trial in March 2024, Brian Earl Johnston pleaded guilty to murdering Kelly via video link from prison. Justice Peter Applegarth delivered a scathing sentence. Kelly Wilkinson was burnt to death by you. You ignored her dignity and her autonomy. He called the murder premeditated and told Brian, Kelly Wilkinson was not yours to control. Brian was sentenced to life in prison with a non-parole period of 20 years. Kelly's sister Danielle delivered a powerful victim impact statement. She said,
"You have caused me and everyone around me a lifetime of immeasurable pain and suffering. All Kelly wanted was to love and be loved, and all you gave her was pure evil."
Despite having 5 children of their own, Danielle and her husband Reese took in Kelly's 3 children, making them a family of 10. The community rallied around them, raising over $100,000 to help support the children. In 2022, Danielle established the Kelly Wilkinson Foundation to provide support for children left behind by domestic violence. Looking back, she has one regret. I wish I'd asked her more questions while I had the chance. Maybe if I had, Kelly would still be here with us. Kelly Wilkinson was 27 years old when she died. She loved her children more than life itself and fought until her final breath to protect them. Her name will forever be a reminder that when women say they're in danger, we must listen. When they ask for help, we must act. When they fear for their lives, we must believe them. Because listening could be the difference between life and death. Her name will forever be a reminder of what happens when the warnings go unheeded